Hi boys, welcome back to the channel, YouTube. I'm Navy Dad, and this is Rusty Bolt's Garage. And well, you know, I had to have a little fun there, right? Okay, a lot to cover in this one. Got a little long, I apologize, and it's taken me a while to put this thing together. I literally bought the back brakes for this car 2.5 years ago. On the day I blew up the engine in Old Blue, which happened to be Christmas Eve, 2021. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a long time coming. And then I filmed lots of this over the last 6 months, you know, rehab and parts and all that kind of stuff. So I apologize that this got long, but it's a lot of information here. So what this is how to put Camaro or Firebird LS1 front and rear brakes on a GM A body. And that is basically 64 through 72. I'll get into the nuances here in a minute. But I've already done part one. The front brakes are already on it, and the link's down below. You can see how to do that and where to buy the parts to do that. And this is the rear. Doing this swap onto a Chevrolet rear end with a C-clip is easy. All you need is, and I don't have it here because it's on the car. All you need is a spacer. It's about an 1/8 inch spacer, and you can buy them on eBay for about 40 bucks. And I'm putting the link down below in the description of where you can get that. The problem is I have a 69 GTO 390 Posi in here, and I wasn't paying attention when I bought all this, and I just slipped my mind that it is a BOP rear end, which is Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac. Those rear ends are bolt-on axles. They're not C-clips. That presented a problem, right? Because there's no way to put the Camaro brakes on the back. Like, okay, you gotta have a spacer. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. Well, I found out it's 1/2 inch thick. You'll see later. How am I going to do that? Now, you can buy aftermarket brakes for the BOP rear ends, but they're thousands of dollars in some cases. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I want good brakes on here, and I'm on a budget. And I also want to show other people how they can do it too, because there's still a lot of these cars out here. If you do it right, you can do this for a couple $100, front and rear. So the BOP rear end would be Buicks, Oldsmobiles, and Pontiacs, built from 64 to 72. Now there are some nuances because GM tried to standardize some of this stuff. Some say 71, some say 72. So there's a lot of hodgepodge of information. I try to find as much info out there as I could, but it's just plan on, if you got a 64 to 72 Buick, Oldsmobile, or Pontiac, it probably has a bolt-in rear end. And you're probably going to want to do this instead of spend thousands of dollars. And this is a fantastic brake system for these cars. The only thing I could find, Oldsmobile forum back in 2003, where some guy took some washers and made spacers by welding them. I was like, that's kind of sketchy. So I was talking to a buddy of mine at work, and he said, why don't you 3D print them? I'm like, what? He said, you can 3D print anything. Hell, you can 3D print them on titanium if you want it. And I'm like, And he said, I can help you with that, because he does a lot of 3D print work. Actually, he's a master model builder. It's really cool. So he said, give me all the specifications. We'll make a test spacer out of resin, and then you can take the STL file and you can go anywhere and have it made out of whatever material you want to. So I was like, wow, cool. So I got all the measurements to him, and, well, you'll see later. And here is the resin thing that he printed at home, did it one evening. And it's pretty cool. So that won't work, obviously, because of heat. So our next thing was to try and find somebody that could print it in whatever material. So I found a place here in town that would print it in stainless steel, but it was $300 a side. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. Then I found a few places, Chinese places, a lot of them online that could do it 10 weeks out. No, not doing that. So what I found was Jeremy Kindrick, director of the 3D print store in Lewisville, Texas. And I sent him an email. I said, is there any kind of high heat plastic or something like that that could be printed on? He said, yeah, absolutely. So what this is it is made out of a carbon nylon material, and I don't have the exact what it is. I'll put it down in the description. Also his contact information, address, because I'm going to give you the STL file. I'm going to put it up on Google Docs. The link will be below in the description, and you can make it however you want. It really doesn't matter as long as it's heat tolerant. This stuff is heat tolerant up to about 250 degrees, I think, and this axle is not going to generate that much heat. It's not actually touching the axle, it's just around it, and then the brakes themselves will generate heat as well. So you just need something that's heat tolerant. So he said, yeah, sure, send me the file. I'll have it for you on Wednesday. That was on a Monday. And he did, and then he shipped it, and I had it on Thursday. And it was $65 a side. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. So again, his name is Jeremy Hendrick, the 3D Print Store, Louisville, Texas. The information is down below, and then so is the link to my Google Docs, where you can go out and you can download the file, and you can use it, you know, wherever you want. You know, if you don't want to use him, or I'm not getting anything for it, so just to let you know. I'm just giving you the opportunity to do this. So yeah, don't take my file and try to make money on it either, because I'll find you. Anyway, so and then also a big shout out to my work buddy John Knobloch, better known as Nobby. And again, if I'm not sure if he has Instagram, but if at the time I publish this, I will find it, because he is a master model builder. He's just freaking incredible. So anyway, there's still thousands of these cars that are still affordable. So this old girl is happy. She's going to be on the road soon, and I know she's happy because she hasn't fought me at all. No broken bolts. All the rusted crap that I took off of this car, it all came off. So that tells me one thing: she's ready to be back on the road. So this is part 2. This is only getting the brakes, getting that far. The rest of it is easy, right? It's just regular brakes. You're putting on the calipers, you're running brake lines, that kind of stuff. So I still have to do all of that. I have got the car on the ground now. I've got it on wheels now, so I can move it around. I've already got the engine out of it and sold. It's going in a 33 Chevy, so that's going to be cool. Right now I'm working on all the wiring. As soon as I've got the wiring done, let's back up on the Easy Jacks, and then I'm going to run all the brake lines and get that done. For this is just the basic stuff. I mean, this is so you know how to do this. The rest of it is cake, right? It's just brakes. Okay, so again, I apologize. I did have a memory card problem, so I lost some of the stuff at the junkyard, and at the very end, I don't know what happened to this stupid camera. I need a new camera. But I somehow just didn't record some of the stuff at the end. So, but it does finish it all up and wrap it all up, and I didn't want to go back and redo it and make this too long, because it's already too long. So here we go. So what do y'all suppose will fit better? LT1 or LS1 rear brakes on the Chevelle? Okay, so here's a pro tip. When you're in such a hurry and you want to get this done because you found these parts and you're like, oh, I gotta get out there, and you forget the most important tools to get the C-clamp out. Needle nose pliers, magnet tool, or a pick, which I forgot all of. So when you're in a pinch, take a piece of brake line, pull a little spring thing off, and come on. There we go. That's right, I got these off a 99 Trans Am. Parking brake cables, complete assembly. Calipers, the mounting brackets, all the hardware, and of course the parking brake assembly, which is part of the whole thing. And all of that for less than $70 at Pick and Pull. So, we'll have fun. Okay, and of course here are the calipers. Yeah, as you can see, they're really clean. Look at that. This car didn't have very many miles on it. All right, so now time to get them all cleaned up and painted. Now the backing plates, I'm not going to paint or anything. I'm just going to clean them up. They're in really good condition. Even the parking brake. The shoes are in real good shape. I mean, you can see how clean that is. You know, I mean, like, you know, that'll just take a little bit of cleaning to get that all nice and shiny. Look at that. So we'll get these cleaned up too. Well, I forgot to take a before picture, but these caliper brackets were actually in really good condition. They cleaned up really well. They were still shiny, still had the zinc coating or whatever it is on there. So got them all cleaned up and first coat on there. I'm using the VHT caliper paint. rather than Duplicolor, which, you know, Duplicolor actually owns VHT now, if you didn't know that. But the Duplicolor is rated at 500 degrees, and as you can see, the VHT is 900 degrees. So I have used the Duplicolor many times. I've never used the VHT, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, third coat on. Something else to note about this. The VHT does not run. The Duplicolor stuff, if y'all have ever used it, the brake caliper, it runs really easily. This stuff, I put on pretty thick on this last coat, and it did not run at all. And like I said, it dries very quickly. So that's my new caliper go-to paint for sure, VHT. Okay, so next up, the calipers themselves. Well, I did manage to get 3 coats on it before the temperature dropped too much. So next we'll be taking apart the backing plates and cleaning them up. I'm not going to do a how-to on how I did this. These are so simple to take apart. You got 2 8mm back here. You take those off. Of course, you take your screws out of here. And then you got an 8mm right here. And then the shoes, you know, there's an adjusting sleeve here which you can back it off. And the shoes, you just kind of give it a little pop and they'll pop out this way. And then this backing plate comes right off. You can clean it up and paint it. As you can see, I've got it all disassembled here and get it cleaned up. You do have to take this thing apart, or at least take this off, so that you can replace that boot if yours is tore up like mine is. So it's all cleaned up and painted. Okay, one other thing just to mention as a note, if you do take yours apart, clean it and paint it and all that sort of stuff, when you need to grease, put some grease inside here and then run it all the way closed, and then leave that a little loose, because this will allow you to move and center the rotor over this, because it's kind of a pain in the ass. Then once you get it centered, it's kind of a pain. Once you get the axle in there, you got to kind of get a screwdriver at an angle, or if you have a really short wrench, you can get in there to tighten that up, and then put it back on, and then adjust it from here to get it to where it's almost touching but not quite. And that's how you adjust these things. It's pretty simple. And as a reminder, you must buy one of these backing plates, and this goes between the axle tube and the back of the Camaro mounting bracket. There's the front. You must have this, because what this does is this pushes forward the mounting bracket just enough to when you put the calipers on, they will center on the rotors once they're installed onto the axle flange. Gotta have that, or it's not gonna line up. It'd be an 1/8 inch off. I screwed up. I'd be using the F word a lot right now. Yep, I would be. But it's a family show, right? Let's see how I screwed up. Hopefully this will. Yeah, so there's my test spacer. And it's about an 1/8 inch too thick. I have no idea how I screwed this up. So, what happened was, I screwed up. I can't even, I measured this thing like 8 times. I didn't push it all the way in, and I didn't take into account 2 things. One, I did not take into account the stepping on the grease seal. Well, here, let me show you. Okay, see, this is what it looks like from, I think you can see that probably. Yeah, I think so. So what I wanted to do is have it sit right here. See that? I think so, right there. That's where I wanted to have it sit. It's actually sitting right there, which is okay. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so anyway, you see that, how that goes right there. It's okay that it sits there, but I'd rather have it here. It's a little bit further away from the axle, and just less heat and that kind of stuff. So, also, I can't believe I did this crap. Damn it. I was measuring the distance from the top of this to the top of that because I thought it sat in the axle flange flush all the way. It does not. So that screwed up my measurements. So make sure that you test everything. In fact, it's almost a 1/4 inch too thick. When I had everything sandwiched together, again, I didn't do it on there because it was kind of too hard. So what I'm gonna have to do is, based on, I've taken my original model, and I cut this one in half, and I'll show you why later. One, I have to cut in half, the other I don't, because I've already put the bearings on, the brand new bearings on one of the axles. And we'll get to that. So you can do this two different ways. One, if you're going to replace your bearings, which if the axle's never been out of the car, replace the dadgum bearings. Cut them off, that's not that big a deal. But I already done one because I wasn't thinking, again, that this was a freaking, I just wasn't thinking. I was thinking Chevrolet. But anyway, stuck with Pontiac. Hi, Dappa. Just kidding. Anyway, so, and again, I'm going to redo the step file so it has all this stuff and you don't have to worry about doing this. But just in case, you got to remember, this is some custom stuff, right? So there's always going to have to be some kind of modification, and that's what it's all about, and that's part of the fun, just doing all this stuff. I mean, I'm learning about 3D printing, and dadgum, it's cool. I'm going to have to get me one. Anyway, so I'm going to get to work on sanding this down. Okay, so I got it sanded down to 1/2 inch. That was messy. Now what I have to do for this side, the first side that I'm going to do, because I've already got you know, bearings pressed on. Oops. I'm going to have to do that and cut this pretty thing in half. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you why. And then this is what you're actually going to do if you are not changing your bearings. So you're just going to have to cut it in half and stick it in there, and it'll be just fine. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to rattle. It's just going to be locked down. So it'll be good to go. But again, I strongly recommend, if you have never replaced the bearings in your 54-year-old rear end, replace the dadgum bearings, and then you don't have to cut it. Okay, a word on cutting these. Don't use, you know, whatever you got laying around in your toolbox. You know, hacksaw with a 15-year-old blade. You need to use something that's really quite fine and thin. So you can get one of these at any hobby shop. It's for cutting plastic models and that kind of stuff. There's also, I think they call them jeweler's hacksaws, but you can get them at hobby stores also. It's a thin, it's like a hacksaw, but it's a very, very thin, fine blade. This worked really good cutting that other one off. But you want to have as thin a cut as possible so you're not removing too much material, because you want it to fit in there nice and snug. So, you know, don't use a chainsaw. Okay, I kind of did a mock-up here to kind of show you a little bit more of what I'm doing and why you have to do this for the bolt-on axle. Now again, if you have a C-clip, you don't have to worry about this. On the C-clip, you have floating bearings. They're not pressed on like this. Now I've already done this side. That's why I had to cut this, because I didn't want to cut off a brand new set of bearings, right? So where this goes is this is going to go in between here, because it has to make up space for the backing plate like that. Otherwise you would have just this is loose, right? So this actually puts pressure on the axle seal itself and holds the axle in, unlike a C-clip, right? So again, here's kind of an exploded view of it. This is why you want to you want to do this before you press the axle on. So this side I'm going to install, and I won't have to cut it. But this is what it that is what that spacer does. It goes in between and acts exactly like this would if it was on a standard set of brakes. Because you got to keep in mind on the press-on axle, you had right here the backing plate for the drum. That's what made up that space. Well, you no longer have that because you've got the backing plate for the Camaro brakes. So that's kind of what it looks like. You know, got your bearings here, you have your Camaro backing plate, and then you have your spacer that does the job of what the drum brake backing plate did. And there you go. And you bolt it on, and you're good to go, right? So, okay, I just wanted to kind of show you that view a little bit more, because it's kind of a little difficult to get the camera in there. But I'm going to go ahead and install this axle, and we're going to, of course, use the pieces that I cut in half. And again, if you're not replacing your bearings, that's what you're going to have to do, is cut that. But I strongly recommend that you replace your bearings if they have never been replaced. Okay, so next up is pressing everything back onto the axle shaft, and then I'll put the new studs in afterwards. One thing you want to do is kind of, if you clean this up and painted it, is mark it. I just used silver Sharpie because the bolts are staggered and this is the top of the axle tube. It'll just kind of help you line it up. And that goes on first. And this direction faces the flange, okay? Like that. So don't put it on like that. Then, here's new handy dandy spacer that you had made 3D printing, or however you had it made. That goes there. Then your oil seal, remember that this side is out, that side's in. Kind of scooch that down just a little bit right there. Now, bearing and your bearing retainer. Now, let's go squish it down. It kind of cracks me up how people diss Harbor Freight all the time. I've had that thing for 30 years. It's never failed, including the bottle jack, it's the original one. There we go, all ready to install. Yee-haw. Okay, so one thing I forgot to do, I started to put this whole thing together and started filming it all, and guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to put studs on. So I had to pull it all off and start over again. And don't forget to line up, you know, your little Sharpie painted flange there. And in there. And there we have it. Last one's done. Okay, now the next part, get it down on the ground again. I can't do that today because guess what? I forgot to order lug nuts. Yeah, yay. So there you go. So I really hope this video makes it out to as many people as possible that are trying to build a car on a budget. And maybe they got a Chevelle with a Pontiac rear engine. It's like me. Or you know, you got an Olds 442 sitting out in the backyard and you've got to get it running, but you want good brakes. You don't want to spin an arm and a leg. Well, here you go. Okay, hold the phone real quick. I neglected to add on my babbling. There will be a part 3 and a part 4. Part 3 will be installing all of the brake lines, what master cylinder to use, and how to easily adapt the Camaro metric brakes to the SAE brake lines of your GM A-body Chevelle, of course. Part 4 will be how to install parking brake cable very easily, very inexpensive. Now, back to your regularly scheduled battling. So, keep watching, got more stuff coming, got all the brake lines got to come in, the fuel lines, and all the wiring under the hood. And then, of course, that goes in. Thanks for watching. Boys, you be safe. It's freaking, it's hotter than hell in here, so I need a beer. Y'all take care. See you next time.